You know, most people think the scariest thing about losing your wallet is the hassle of canceling your credit cards. But for Elias Thorne, standing there on the corner of Michigan Avenue in a suit that cost more than a Honda Civic, losing his wallet wasn't an inconvenience, it was an invitation. And he was about to accept it, even if it meant tearing his entire life apart. It was a Tuesday in Chicago. The kind of gray, biting Tuesday where the wind comes off the lake like a razor blade. Elias was supposed to be shaking hands. He was supposed to be smiling for the cameras, holding one of those ridiculous golden shovels, breaking ground on Thorne Plaza, a shiny new billion-dollar complex that promised to revitalize the South Side. But as he stepped out of his blacked-out SUV, distracted by a text from his board of directors, he felt a tug. A quick, sharp yank on his jacket pocket. By the time he spun around, she was already moving. A girl, maybe 10 years old. She was wearing a hoodie 3 sizes too large, the gray fabric stained with grease, and sneakers that were held together by duct tape and hope. She wasn't sprinting, though. That was the weird part. She was running, sure, but she kept looking back. Her eyes, big, dark, intelligent eyes locked onto his. They weren't saying, "Catch me if you can." They were saying, "Follow me. I dare you." "Hey!" Elias shouted, "Security!" But his security detail was stuck behind a wall of paparazzi. And something in Elias, maybe the adrenaline, maybe the sheer audacity of this kid, snapped. He didn't wait. He didn't think about his Italian loafers or his heart condition. He just ran. He chased her past the high-end boutiques, past the tourists taking selfies at the Bean, and then she took a hard left. Suddenly, the scenery changed. The manicured sidewalks turned into cracked concrete. The glass skyscrapers gave way to boarded-up row houses. The girl was fast, weaving through alleyways filled with broken glass and wet cardboard. Elias was gasping for air, his lungs burning like he'd swallowed fire, but he couldn't stop. Every time he slowed down, she would pause at a corner, check, to make sure he was still there, and then dive deeper into the ruins. She led him past blocks of houses marked with bright red X's. You know those marks? They're like plague signs for buildings. They mean condemned. They mean do not enter. They mean the city has given up and the bulldozers are coming. Finally, she stopped. They were miles from the groundbreaking ceremony now. They were in the shadow of the I-90 overpass, a place where the sun struggled to reach. The roar of traffic overhead was deafening, a constant reminder of the world moving fast above them. Oblivious to what was rotting underneath, the girl squeezed through a hole in a chain-link fence. Elias, sweating, his suit jacket torn at the shoulder, squeezed through after her, and that's when he saw it. It wasn't a camp, it was a community. There were 3 old Suddens parked in a circle, their windows insulated with newspapers. A fire was burning in a steel drum, and sitting on a cooler, looking at Elias with a mixture of terror and defiance, was a woman. She looked like she hadn't slept in a month. Her nurse's scrubs were wrinkled, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, but her jaw was set like granite. "I brought him, Mama," the girl said, tossing Elias's wallet onto a folding table. She didn't take a dime. "I brought the man who stole our house." Elias stood there, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. I didn't steal anything." He wheezed. "Your daughter ... She took my wallet." The woman stood up. "My daughter," she said, her voice shaking with a rage that felt centuries old, "is trying to show you what you did. I'm Sarah, this is Maya, and that. She pointed to the backseat of a rusted Ford Taurus where a little boy was coughing, a wet, rattling cough that sounded like rattling chains. "That is Leo. He has bronchitis. He's 4. And he's sleeping in a car because of your signature." Elias straightened up, wiping sweat from his brow. "Ma'am, I think you have me confused with someone else. I run Thorne Industries. We build hospitals, we build tech hubs." "You build misery," Sarah spat. She reached into her bag and pulled out a crumpled, water-stained piece of paper. She shoved it into his chest. "Read it." Elias took the paper. It was an eviction notice. Order of immediate vacation. Property, 4208 Rowan Street. Reason, eminent domain for Thorne Plaza Development. Authorized by Elias Thorne, CEO. Elias stared at the bottom of the page. There it was, his signature. The loop on the E, the sharp cross on the T. It looked exactly like his handwriting. But here's the thing, Elias Thorne is a control freak. He reads every contract. He signs every check. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that he had never seen this document before. "I didn't sign this," he whispered. Sarah laughed, and it was an ugly, broken sound. "Of course you didn't. That's what they all say. It wasn't me. It was the system. It was the bank. But my mother paid off that house in 1998. We had the deed. We had a life. And then your man, that guy in the shiny gray suit, shows up and tells us we have 24 hours to clear out, or he's calling child services." "What man?" Elias asked, his blood running cold. "Vane," she said. "Marcus. Vane said he works for you. Said he's your right hand. He stood on my porch, looked at my kids, and smiled while he told us we were impeding progress." Marcus Vane. Elias felt the ground shift beneath him. Marcus was his head of urban development. The guy who always had a smile, the guy who always brought the projects in under budget and ahead of schedule. Marcus was the one sipping champagne at the groundbreaking right now, probably wondering where the hell his boss was. "I need to see the house," Elias said. Sarah looked at him like he was crazy. "Why? So you can gloat?" "The bulldozers are coming tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. That's why we're here. We're watching it die." "No," Elias said, and his voice dropped an octave, losing the CEO polish. "I need to see it, because if someone is forging my name to hurt people, I need to know why. And I need to know what I'm fighting for." Maya stepped forward. She looked small, but her shadow stretched long in the afternoon light. "I'll take him, Mama. He needs to see the door." "The door?" Elias asked. "Just come," Maya said. They walked back through the broken neighborhood. The silence was heavy. Every red X on a house felt like an accusation. When they reached 4208 Rowan Street, Elias stopped. It was a small bungalow, the kind built in the 50s for factory workers. The siding was peeling, the windows were boarded up with plywood, and that damn red X was slashed across the front door, but you could see the ghosts of what it used to be. There were flower beds, now overgrown with weeds, but outlined in carefully placed river stones. There was a tire swing hanging from an oak tree, the rope frayed. "We had 30 minutes, Maya said, her voice quiet. "That's what Mr. Vane gave us. 30 minutes to pack 10 years. She pried loose a board on the back window. "Come on." Elias climbed through a window into a house he ostensibly owned. The air inside was stale, smelling of dust and old lavender. It was empty mostly, just the heavy stuff left behind. A sofa with a broken leg, a dining table too big to move in a hurry. "In here," Maya said. She led him to the kitchen. It was stripped bare, but on the doorframe leading to the pantry, there were markings in black ink, dozens of them. Little horizontal lines climbing up the wood, each one dated and labeled. Maya, age 3. Maya, age 5. Leo, age 2. Elias stared at the wood. He traced the lines with his finger. He felt the texture of the ink, the slight indentation where the pen had pressed hard. "My dad started this," Maya said, looking at the floor. "Before he died in the factory accident. He said as long as this doorframe stood, we'd always know how much we'd grown. He said we were planting roots." She looked up at Elias, and her eyes were wet. "Mr. Vane said it's just wood. He said it's garbage. But it's not garbage. It's my dad." Elias felt a lump form in his throat, hard and painful. He looked at a specific mark near the top. Maya, age 9. Suddenly, he wasn't in a condemned house in Chicago. He was back in a hospital room in Boston 15 years ago. He was looking at a chart on the wall. Emily, age 7, his own daughter. The leukemia had taken her so fast. He remembered measuring her, praying that if she grew, she was getting better. She didn't grow, she shrank. And when she died, Elias had torn down his own house because he couldn't stand to look at the doorframe where her marks stopped. He had spent the last 15 years building glass towers, trying to cover up the hole in the world where his daughter used to be. And now he realized he had become the machine that was erasing other fathers' memories. "It's not garbage," Elias whispered. He turned to Maya. "It's the most important thing in this house." He pulled out his phone. He had 5% battery left. He dialed his private attorney, a woman named Catherine who terrified judges for sport. "Catherine," he said, "I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're in court. I need an injunction. Now, Elias?" Her voice was tinny. "Where are you? The press is going nuts. Marcus is telling everyone you had a medical episode." "Marcus is a liar and a thief," Elias growled. "He forged my signature on 52 eviction notices. I'm looking at one right now. I need you to wake up a judge. I need you to stop the demolition of the Rowan Street block. It's scheduled for 6 a.m. "Elias, that's federal fraud if what you're saying is true. But getting a judge at ... Catherine." Elias shouted, his voice cracking. "There are kids sleeping in a car under I-90 because of me. Wake up a judge." He hung up. The phone died. He looked at Maya. "We're staying here tonight." "Here?" Maya asked. "It's cold." "And the rats." "We're staying," Elias said, taking off his ruined suit jacket and draping it over her shoulders. "Because if those bulldozers come, they're going to have to go through. And me first." That night was the longest of Elias Thorne's life. He sat on the floor of that empty kitchen, shivering in his dress shirt, listening to the wind howl through the cracks in the plywood. Sarah had come back with blankets from the car, looking at Elias with a suspicion that was slowly, painfully turning into confusion. "Why are you doing this?" she asked around 3 a.m., handing him a thermos of lukewarm water. "You're a billionaire. You could be in a penthouse right now." "I had a daughter," Elias said into the dark. "Her name was Emily. She would have been 22 this year." Sarah didn't say anything. She just sat down next to him, shoulder to shoulder against the wall with the height marks. In the dark, the distance between the billionaire and the homeless nurse disappeared. They were just two parents missing something they could never get back. The sun came up like a bruise, purple and yellow and angry, and with the sun came the sound. The low, deep rumble of diesel engines. "They're coming," Maya whispered. Clutching Elias's arm, Elias stood up. His joints popped. He was cold, hungry, and looked like he'd been in a street fight. But he felt more awake than he had in a decade. "Stay inside," he ordered Sarah and Maya. He kicked the front door open and stepped out onto the porch. 3 bulldozers were rolling down the street, flanked by police cars. And standing by the lead truck, holding a clipboard and wearing a pristine hard hat, was Marcus Vane. Marcus looked annoyed. He was checking his watch, probably calculating his bonus. When he saw the figure on the porch, he squinted. Then he froze. Elias walked down the steps. He didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a wreck. But he walked with the kind of authority that makes armies stop. "Stop!" Elias roared. The lead bulldozer idled. Marcus Vane jogged over, his smile faltering. "Elias?" "My God, sir, we've been looking everywhere for you. The board is panicked. What happened to you? Why are you guarding a teardown?" "It's not a teardown, Marcus," Elias said, his voice deadly calm. "It's a home." "Sir, you're clearly not yourself," Marcus said, putting on a concerned face for the construction crew watching. This is the Rowan block. We cleared these squatters out weeks ago. We need to level it today to stay on schedule for the plaza. I saw the eviction notice, Marcus, Elias said, stepping closer. I saw the signature. Marcus didn't blink, but his Adam's apple bobbed. Yes, sir. You signed the authorization batch last month. I have the files in the office. Really? Elias smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Because the signature on Sarah's notice has a loop on the web loop. I haven't looped my W since law school. And the date on the order? October 12th. I was in Tokyo on October 12th, Marcus. Unless I learned how to teleport, I didn't sign that paper. The color drained from Marcus's face. Elias, let's discuss this in the car. It's complicated. The zoning laws. It's not complicated, Elias interrupted. It's fraud. It's forgery. And looking at the bonus structure for this project, I'm guessing you get a $50,000 kicker for every block cleared ahead of schedule. Is that about right? Marcus's eyes darted to the police officer standing nearby. Officer, this man is clearly distressed. He's interfering with a lawful demolition. Please remove him. The cops hesitated. They knew who Elias Thorne was, but they also had orders. One of them stepped forward. Mr. Thorne, sir, if you could. Just step aside. I'm not moving, Elias said. He turned and grabbed the porch railing. If you want this house, you take it with me inside. Do it, Marcus screamed, losing his composure. Tear it down. I have the permits. I run this site. The bulldozer engine revved. The driver looked confused, but Marcus was screaming, waving the clipboard. The massive yellow blade lifted, aiming for the porch. Sarah and Maya screamed from inside. The house. Elias closed his eyes and braced for the impact. Eliza closed his eyes and braced for the impact. He could feel the vibration of the bulldozer's engine in the solace of his feet, a deep, mechanical growl that threatened to chew up the porch and everything standing on it. He thought about Emily. He thought about Maya's hike marks on the doorframe behind him. He didn't move an inch. Then came the screech. It wasn't the sound of wood splintering. It was the sound of tires locking up on pavement. A black town car fishtailed around the corner, hopping the curb and slamming to a halt between the bulldozer and the porch. The driver's door flew open before the wheels even stopped rolling. Catherine, Elias's attorney, stepped out. She was 5'0", wearing 6-inch heels, and holding a piece of paper like it was a loaded weapon. Cut the engines, she screamed, her voice piercing the morning air. Emergency injunction. Cook County Circuit Court. Nobody moves. The bulldozer operator slammed on the brakes, the blade hovering just inches from the porch railing. The silence that followed was heavy, ringing in everyone's ears. Marcus Vane looked like he'd just swallowed a lemon. He stormed over to Catherine. This is ridiculous. We have permits. We have ownership. You have nothing, Catherine said, shoving the paper into his chest. Judge Miller signed this 10 minutes ago. All demolition orders on the south side project are suspended pending a federal investigation into signature fraud and predatory eviction practices. She turned to the police officers, who were looking very uncomfortable. Officers, I suggest you take statements. We have reason to believe Mr. Vane here has forged documents involving over 60 properties. Marcus tried to laugh, but it came out as a squeak. That's absurd. Elias, tell her this is a mistake. Elias walked down the stairs. He walked right up to Marcus. He was dirty, unshaven, and smelled like old house, but he looked like a titan. The only mistake, Elias said softly, was trusting you with my name. He turned to the cops. I want to file formal charges against Marcus Vane for forgery, fraud, and embezzlement. And I want a forensic audit of every single eviction authorized in the last 2 years. Marcus started to back away. You can't do this. I made you money. I cleared the way. You wanted this project. I wanted to build something, Elias said. You just wanted to destroy. As the police led Marcus away protesting and threatening to sue everyone from the mayor to the Pope, Sarah and Maya came out onto the porch. They looked at the bulldozer, now silent. They looked at the black car. And then they looked at Elias. Sarah didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. She just nodded, a slow, deep nod of respect. Maya ran down the steps and hugged Elias around the waist, burying her face in his ruined shirt. You stayed, she whispered. I promised, Elias said, patting her hair. I promised, but saving the house was just the beginning. The real work started the next day. Elias didn't go back to his penthouse. He went to his office, kicked the door open, and called an emergency board meeting. He walked in looking like he'd been through a war zone, because he had. He threw the eviction notice on the mahogany table. We are done, he announced. The Thorn Plaza project is canceled. The board members gasped. Canceled? We've sunk millions into this. The investors... We are pivoting, Elias cut them off. We aren't building a plaza. We are launching the Restoration Initiative. We are going to find every single family Marcus Vane evicted. We are going to rebuild their homes. We are going to update their plumbing, their roofs, their electrical. And we are going to give them the deeds, free and clear. That's financial suicide. One board member shouted. No, Elias said, leaning forward. It's atonement. And if you don't like it, you can sell your shares. I'm buying. Over the next 6 months, Chicago saw something it had never seen before. Instead of wrecking balls, they saw repair crews. Instead of luxury condos, they saw old bungalows being brought back to life. Elias Thorne was there every day. He wasn't in the boardroom. He was on Rowan Street, wearing a tool belt, learning how to sand floors. He worked alongside Sarah, who, it turned out, knew more about plumbing than his entire contractor team combined. He watched Maya and Leo play in the yard where the tire swing hung. One afternoon, about a year after the chase, Elias was finishing up the painting in the kitchen of 4208 Rowan Street. The house was beautiful now. New windows, fresh siding, a roof that didn't leak, but the kitchen doorframe ... that remained untouched. He had carefully taped around it, preserving the yellowed wood and the black ink marks. Maya walked in. She was taller now. Cleaner. She was wearing new sneakers Elias had bought her, though she still preferred her old hoodie. It looks good, she said, looking around. It's getting there, Elias said, wiping paint from his hands. I have something for you, she said. She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. It was a drawing, done in crayon. It showed a house with a red door. There was a big son in the corner wearing sunglasses. And standing in front of the house were 4 stick figures. One was a woman with nurse scrubs. One was a girl with big hair. One was a little boy holding a ball. And the fourth one was a tall man wearing a suit, but the suit was colored in with patches of gray and brown, like it was dirty. And he was holding a hammer. Is this me? Elias asked, his throat tight. Yeah, Maya said. That's you. The builder. Elias stared at the drawing. He had won industry awards. He had been on the cover of Forbes. He had a shelf full of trophies in his office, but this crooked drawing on construction paper. This was the only thing he wanted to frame. Thank you. Maya, he said. Come here, she said, motioning to the doorframe. She pulled a black marker from her pocket. She stood up straight against the wood. Mark me, she said. Elias knelt down. He carefully placed the ruler on top of her head. He drew a fresh black line on the old wood. Maya, age 11. You grew, he said, smiling. Almost 2 inches. Now you, she said. What? You, she insisted. You grew too. You should be on the wall. Elias laughed. I think I stopped growing a long time ago, kid. Not that kind of growing, she said, tapping her chest. Inside, You grew inside. Elias looked at her. He looked at the mark he had just made. He thought about the empty, cold penthouse waiting for him downtown, and the warm, chaotic house filled with life right here. He took the marker. He stood up. And way up high, near the top of the frame, he made a small mark. He didn't write his height. He just wrote a date. The day I woke up. Sarah walked in, carrying a tray of lemonade. She looked at the fresh marks on the wall. She looked at Elias, who had paint in his hair and peace in his eyes. "You staying for dinner?" she asked. "I'm making pot roast." "I wouldn't miss it," Elias said. The story of the billionaire and the thief became a local legend in Chicago. People talked about how the guy who owned half the skyline spent his weekends fixing porches on the south side. But Elias didn't care about the press. He didn't care about the legacy. He cared about the doorframe, because he realized that you can build the tallest towers in the world, you can put your name on stadiums and plazas, but none of it matters if you don't have a home. And a home isn't wood and brick. A home is a place where someone notices when you grow. Elias Thorne finally found his home. And all it cost him was his wallet. So, here's a question for you guys. We walk past people every day. We see the suits, and we see the hoodies. We see the skyscrapers, and we see the boarded-up windows. But how often do we actually stop to look at the cracks in the foundation? How often do we realize that the people we think we're fighting against might be the only ones who can save us? Have you ever had a moment where you realized you were the villain in someone else's story? Or a moment where a stranger changed your entire perspective on life? I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below. Let's talk about what it really means to build a life. And if this story touched you, if you believe in second chances and fighting for the little guy, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to start over. I'm signing off from the South Side. Keep growing, everyone. And don't forget to mark the wall.